everyone, welcome and welcome back to my channel. My name is Emily Nostroza. How are you guys doing? So in today's video, I'm going to be ending the 4-part series on how to become a consultant. And in this video, part 4, I will be sharing tips on how to succeed in the behavioral interview. So during your consulting interview process, you will likely be faced with 2 behavioral interviews during your first and second round. And if you make it to the second round, you will definitely face the case interview, and the last interview on that day will be the behavioral interview. So the behavioral interview is very important because it is basically the company's final assessment of you in determining whether or not you will get that consulting job offer. Although the case interview is very important and it is something that you must dedicate a lot of time to, it is also important to spend time working on your behavioral interviewing skills and making sure that you are fully prepared to go and kill that interview. Alright, so let's jump right into the video with tip number 1, and that is to recognize that the behavioral interview is just as important as the case interview. So the purpose of the behavioral interview is to help the interviewer determine whether or not you would be a good fit at the firm and if you would work well in teams and with the clients. Although a lot of people spend a lot of time preparing for the case interview, you want to make sure that you also dedicate a sufficient amount of time into preparing for the behavioral interview. Your case interview may turn out great or amazing, but if you don't demonstrate that you are a good fit for that firm, for their teams, and that you are client ready, then you likely won't get the job. So at the end of the day, you want to make sure that you can nail both the case interview and the behavioral interview. Tip number 2 is to be able to answer the why questions. The first why question is why consulting? You want to make sure that you reflect on this question and come up with a genuine response as to why you want to pursue consulting. Everyone's response to this question will be different. Maybe you want to pursue consulting because it gives you the opportunity to explore different industries, projects, and work with executive level clients very early in your career. Or maybe because you get to learn a lot in a very short period of time. Or maybe even because you get to work with very bright and intelligent people, considering that consulting is a very stimulating and challenging environment. The second why question is why this firm? So you have to be able to demonstrate not only why you want to pursue consulting, but why this company is the perfect fit for you and why you would be the perfect fit for them. And your response to this question may simply be because of the people and connections that you have made at this firm, or it may be because of the projects and industries that this company or office focuses on. But whatever your responses are, just make sure to have a clear response as to why consulting and why this firm, because you will definitely be asked those questions during your behavioral interview. Tip number 3 is to prepare stories to share. So you want to think of 4 to 5 stories to keep in mind to be able to share when answering any of the behavioral interview questions. In preparing how you're going to share that story, I recommend writing bullet point notes of the points that you want to make when sharing that story, but don't write out a paragraph of what you would want to say word per word when sharing that story, because you want to come off as natural as possible. Tip number 4 is to focus on your role. Now, what I mean by this is that when you're sharing an experience about a leadership or job role that you had, you want to make sure that you talk about what your role was. The interviewer is interested in knowing what you did. They don't care about what your title was or what your team was like. They want to know what you did and what you contributed in that role. So don't focus on what your title was or what your team did. Focus on what you did and what your impact was. And when sharing about your role, you want to make sure that you boast your results and that you highlight those skills that relate most to consulting. Tip number 5 is to use the STAR method. So for those of you guys who don't know what the STAR method is, the STAR method is basically a model for structuring your response to behavioral interview questions. STAR is an acronym that stands for situation, task, action, and result. So when answering the behavioral interview question, you're going to start with situation, and that is where you're going to describe the event or the situation that you were in. The next thing is task, and that is where you will explain the problem or task that you had to complete. After task is action, and that is where you will describe your solution or the specific actions you took to complete the task. And then lastly is results, and that is where you will talk about the results of your efforts, the impact you had, or any lessons that you gained. Tip number 6 is to be yourself. Being yourself is very, very important. And I know that during the consulting interview process, most people, or at least for me, I felt just very nervous, and I was just I sometimes just didn't feel like myself because I was just so nervous and I just put so much pressure on myself on trying to make sure that I would nail the interview and hopefully get the job. But often by putting this pressure on myself, I sometimes came off just not like myself. So you want to make sure that you calm yourself down, regain confidence and be yourself, because you don't want to come off like a robot or sound like you memorized everything that you wanted to say. You want to be as natural as you can, so take a deep breath, be positive, and be confident in yourself and in your abilities. Also keep in mind that the interviewers want to get to know you and who you are. So be sure to express your true self, but also remember to stay professional. And then lastly, some of the potential questions that you may get during your behavioral interview include: walk me through your resume. Tell me about your greatest accomplishment. Tell me about a time when you experienced failure and how you overcame it. Tell me about a time when you led a team through a difficult situation. Tell me about a time when you worked in a team and had to manage conflict. Tell me about a time when you had a disagreement with a colleague or boss. Tell me about a time when you had to change someone's or a group's mind. Tell me about a time when you had to manage multiple responsibilities and how you handled the situation. What are your strengths and weaknesses? And then lastly, what is something interesting that you read recently in the newspaper? So these were just a few of the questions that I used to prepare for my behavioral interview, and some of these questions were actually on my interview, so I highly suggest that you guys look over those questions and come up with some bullet points as to how you would respond to those questions. But overall, as you're preparing for your behavioral interview, keep in mind that the interviewer is looking for leadership, teamwork, and communication skills, as well as how you identify issues, resolve problems, and create solutions. Alright, so that is all that I have for today. I hope that you guys enjoyed this series on how to become a consultant. If you guys haven't seen part 1, 2, or 3, I'll be sure to link them down in the description below. If you guys have any comments or questions on the behavioral interview, the case interview, or just how to become a consultant, please leave them in the comment section below and I'll be sure to answer them. If you guys enjoyed this video and enjoyed this series on how to become a consultant, give this video a thumbs up, and if you want to watch more videos revolving around my post-grad life and any college advice, then be sure to click that subscribe button and also click that bell button so you can receive notifications next time I post a new video. I'll see you guys in my next video. Thank you guys for watching.